podcast. If people don't know you, they're not going to work with you. If people don't know you, they're not going to do business with you. If you are afraid of being on a camera, I understand. I was like that just a few months ago. Give it a shot. Make a video. If you have something to say, guys, say it now. Say it now, or no one's ever going to know what's in your brain, right? What's in your mind. Give it a shot. Get on camera and maybe help some people out.
Welcome to the LandLife podcast with your host, PJ Riley.
Hey guys, welcome to the LandLife podcast. My name is PJ Riley. Guys, like I always say, if you're getting value from this podcast, if you're learning a ton, you're getting a ton of knowledge out of this from all the great guests we have, leave a comment, like, subscribe. Guys, do me a favor, subscribe. It's not that hard. Just click subscribe. Guys, today our guest, you can, if you're watching it on video, you can see that there is no guest here. It's just me. I wanted to do a podcast and an episode where I explain kind of how I got into the land business, why I got into the land business, and what the heck made me want to start a podcast, kind of why I felt, I guess, compelled to start a podcast. So we'll start with the land part. Let's go even further back. Let's go way further back in the land part. Grew up in the military, lived all over the world, right? We lived all over the world. We lived in Sicily. I was born in Barbados, all over the place. Landed in Denver, Colorado, where I finished high school and college. Got out of both with a 2.0 GPA. So, academically, I was killing it from the start. I was doing really well. The schools were like, man, this guy is amazing. He's going to go on to, a big career of some kind. So what I did was I jumped into a bunch of different endeavors, entrepreneurial endeavors. I tried insurance, professional fighting for a while. I ended up working for Chuck Norris in the World Combat League. I tried personal training, kind of goes along with the fighting part. We tried this business where a buddy of mine had gotten pulled over. Okay, he got a speeding ticket. Now he got pulled over, and the police officer took him to jail because he had a warrant for not paying a speeding ticket. So my buddy gets out of jail and he comes back and he says, "Man, we need to do something about this. We got to fix this situation. We need to figure out a way to where you can pay a speeding ticket right there with the police officer." So I said, "Great idea." We were going to put credit card readers in police cars, basically. We got a bunch of big vendors on board, big names that you've all heard of, big banks, big companies. Thought it was also a great idea. So my job was to get in contact with all the different law enforcement agencies across the country. I had to make contact with all these people. One thing I figured out really fast is that nobody wants their police officers being cashiers. And I absolutely understand that. It was a great idea, but having your cops, they have enough to worry about, other than running credit cards, giving people receipts for their speeding tickets, and it's not a good look. So that didn't work out, and we're not here talking about my awesome credit card business that took off. So yeah, bounced around from a bunch of different, entrepreneurial endeavors, did a ton of stuff. Did direct sales. I tried direct sales for quite a while. Kind of led me into my next, my current gig, right? My land business. I was talking to a buddy at work, and he's like, "Man, you're an entrepreneur, man. You're always going after things and trying new things. You ever think about investing in Detroit?" And I was like, "Why would I invest in Detroit?" And he's like, "Well, you can buy a house for $1." And I thought, you can buy a house for $1 in the city of Detroit. And I was like, well, I got like 10 of them. So let's buy 10 houses, right? Didn't have a ton of cash at the time. So what I did was I went on the place that you go to research anything that you don't know, right? You go on YouTube. Don't know how to fix a toilet, you go to YouTube, right? Drywall, YouTube. So I go to YouTube and I'm researching how to buy a house in Detroit for $1. And it's not exactly as easy as you think it might be. So, you could potentially purchase the house for $1 once you put in the dishwasher and the microwave and all the copper wires. That stuff gets gutted and destroyed by midnight that night. That house is getting broken into. If anybody in that neighborhood knows, that there's new appliances in the house, it's going to get destroyed. And you learn that pretty quickly. So during the course of my research, though, I ran across a guy with a video about how to buy and sell vacant land. Now, I've always wanted to own land somewhere at this point. So I was like, well, worst case scenario, I own land, right? So I get about halfway through this guy's video and I'm like, all right, I figured this thing out. I can jump to the next step. So I go to Zillow, right? You're never supposed to buy, as an investor, you don't buy property on Zillow. It's just not a normal thing to do. So I go to Zillow, not knowing that, and find a guy who is selling 2 properties about 2 hours south of me. And each one he's charging, or he's asking $1,100 for each one. Now, I had just done a direct sales deal where I ended up with about $1,100. So I'm like, wow, it's perfect. I can buy one of the deals. Now, I remember watching that video though, and I remember the guy in the video saying, you don't pay full price. You go low, you lowball these guys, right? So I'm like, okay, I have $1,100. This guy's charging $1,100 each for 2 properties. What if I offered him $1,100 for both properties? What would he say? So I'm thinking, okay, that might actually work, right? So I call this guy and I'm like, and I think I'm trying to think of like the best things to say. And obviously, sometimes I'm just not good with words. It just doesn't always work. So I talk to this guy and I'm like, all right, well, I'll pay $1,100 for both of your properties. And he pauses for a moment and he goes, yeah, sure. And I was like, wait, what? At that point, I'm kind of frozen because I don't know what to do. I have no idea where to go from there. Remember, I've only gotten halfway through this guy's video. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm ready to go. Kind of what do we do next? Like, I have no idea what to do next. And he's like, don't sweat it. Send me a check for $1,100. I will do all the paperwork, send everything into the county, and everything's good. And at that point in my life, $1,100 was kind of a lot of money. It isn't like it is today where it was like, if I lose this, that's a big deal. But I still did it. I jumped. I was like, screw it, let's go. So I send this guy a check for $1,100 and and he does all the paperwork, gets everything done, and sends it in the county. County records the deed, sends it back to me. And I realized I own property now. I own real estate. And I thought, wow, that's pretty amazing. So from there, I went home, I finished the video, and I'm like, okay, now what do I do? Like, where do I go from here? So I learned that you have to sell these properties now. Go figure, right? So I did not understand how to sell a property. I had no idea what I was doing. So I drove down to these properties and I took a couple pictures, drove back up, and I'm like, okay, where do I advertise these things? Zillow? Do I put it back on Zillow? And I was like, no, that's not going to work for me. So I went on Craigslist. I go onto Craigslist and I post both properties. Now, I wasn't really sure what to price them at, so I put $1,500 each. Within about 2 weeks, both properties had sold for $1,500. So that's almost 3 times the amount of money that I paid for these properties. So I was thinking, wait a minute, how can I do this at scale? Like 3 times the returns? Like, how much further can I go on this? So if I hadn't just decided to jump in and give this thing a shot, I never would have gotten to this point that I'm at now. And regardless of what ideas you have, what business thoughts you have, what things you want to try, I would highly recommend you to just give them a shot. Give it a try. If it doesn't work, hey, what's the worst that can happen, right? You lose out on an idea. So that got us kind of to where we're at now. I've done around 450, 500 deals over the course of the past 7 years. And obviously they've scaled quite a bit higher as I've moved on. I don't do a ton of $550 deals anymore, but it is still doable at this point in time. If you were still to go, send a mailer out or to go online, you can still buy a land for $550, which is pretty amazing if you wanted to, kind of do what I do. So how do you get to this point though? How do you move from those 2 properties on Zillow all the way to where I'm at now? I'm not going to keep going on Zillow and looking for properties for $550 because it would take me forever and I'd probably have to contact literally everybody on Zillow. So what I do now is it's all mailing. I send out around 10,000 letters per month to potential sellers across the country. And some of them, call me back, write me back. They respond to me via email. And it's very interesting to hear some of the responses. I say about a 80% negative response. So, for example, I had a lady a few months ago tell me that her husband was going to come to my house and break my kneecaps. And this is all just because I sent them a letter with an offer to buy vacant land that they own. They've probably never even seen. I have been propositioned. I got propositioned a couple times by older ladies. A lot of the times, though, it's just really angry. This is mine. It's worth a lot more. You're lowballing me. And honestly, that is kind of what I'm doing. I'm offering a lower price than retail to see if they are willing to sell it, and if it's just a time in their life that they want to get rid of the property. So then the other 20% call me back and say, hey, I really like to sell it. I'm tired of paying taxes on this thing, and I'd like to get rid of this thing. So then I buy it from them. And that's another thing too. It's if you're in a real estate business like this, you have to understand that you're not trying to cheat somebody out of anything. I'm offering them a price that I'm willing to pay for a property. I'm hoping that they accept. If it is like a certain time in their life, let's say, for example, they're tired of paying the taxes on this thing. They've been doing it for 30 years and they just want to get rid of this property. They plan on coming out here, maybe hunting, camping. Maybe they did it a couple times, but it really didn't work out. And they just don't want the thing anymore. That's one reason that people sell me vacant land. Another one I hear all the time is, grandpa gave me this property. He gave it to me. He deeded it over to me 20 years ago. He died. We just don't have any interest in it. We live in New York. The property is in Arizona. I'll never go out there and see it. I have no interest in going to see this property. I just keep paying taxes on it. So would you do me a favor and take this thing off my hands? And that's kind of where I jump in. I'm willing to buy this property and take it off their hands and, get rid of the nuisance that they have. Now, I bought a property. How are you going to sell it? How do I sell vacant land? One of the best places out there is free. It's completely free. You don't need anything. You don't need a realtor. You don't need anybody to help you. It's Facebook. Facebook Marketplace is probably the number one place I sell land. I can, I can sell the property on Facebook and talk to sellers or buyers. I can talk to them. I can communicate via chat. We go back and forth. And then I'm able to build a buyer's list out of that too. So let's say I sell a property to person number 1. Well, person number 2, 3, and 4 still wanted it. Well, unfortunately, I don't have the property anymore. What I can do is get their email address and then send them an email the next time I have an available property. So it just kind of works out for everybody. But Facebook is free and it's super easy to use. Once it's done there, I deed the property over to these guys and it's their property. So that's how I buy and sell vacant land. That's kind of what I do, how I got started in it, and kind of where I'm at now. I do it quite a bit. We're working on deals almost every day, buying and selling properties all over the country. If you want to do it, let me know, or just go to landlifecourse.com. You can pick it up easily, very affordable from there. You don't have to talk to me. If you want to talk to me, though, you can always do that too. Now the podcast. Why did I start a podcast? I'm decent land business. Things are going well. Why would I go out there and talk in front of a camera? Guys, I just started this in February of this year. I'd never spoken on a camera before. I just decided it was time for me to be able to start passing things on to other people. So the reason I started the podcast is that I got lucky and stumbled upon the land business. I started to think, like, how many other people like me were out there that hadn't stumbled upon anything yet, but they just knew they wanted something more. They wanted something bigger, right? So I had met so many people along the way that I figured I need to tell their stories so that everybody at home can hear it and maybe it will resonate with them and they can run with that deal. So what I did was I just met a ton of people in different entrepreneurial endeavors, different businesses, and I decided, hey, would you be on the podcast, kind of tell people how you got started? Maybe they always wanted to do what you're doing. So I did that. And that's the point of this podcast. I mean, I had early on, I was having friends on the podcast, just buddies that I knew did something. I had a buddy that owned an ambulance company. And this guy came out of nowhere. We worked together at a government job, and he decided that one day he wanted to own an ambulance company. So he bought one and bought two and bought three, and he just built from there. I met a guy who was renting out tents. This guy rents out tents and makes a ton of money. Tons of real estate guys, tons of real estate guys, people that do different things, Airbnbs, self-storage, different things that, I mean, I know if I hadn't found land, it'd be something I'd want to do right now, right? There's so many different potential things you can do if you just take that first step. So I wanted to show how these guys and gals took their first step and kind of got to where they're at now. So guys, I'm going to keep it short. In summary, that's the podcast. That's the land business. That's really me. If you have something you want to achieve in life, you absolutely have to go for it now. We only live once, and who knows how long we live while we're here, right? You got to make that jump. You got to take that chance. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Move on to the next thing. You have to just keep moving forward and keep trying until something sticks. Hopefully the podcast will give you some ideas and some suggestions on what you can do. Another thing, guys, as far as doing a podcast, if people don't know you, they're not going to work with you. If people don't know you, they're not going to do business with you. If you are afraid of being on a camera, I understand. I was like that just a few months ago. Give it a shot. Make a video. If you have something to say, guys, say it now. Say it now, or no one's ever going to know what's in your brain, right? What's in your mind. Give it a shot. Get on camera and maybe help some people out. All right, guys. Till next time on LandLife.